ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Sports Talk and the Success Table. I greatly appreciate your support to our channel. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell.
So, with that transition from Texas to Mississippi, man, that's a rough transition for your college years, man. How did you manage to overtake that mindset of going from Texas to Mississippi, man?
Well, for me, it was an adjustment coming from Texas to Mississippi. But as I tell a lot of people, Oxford, Mississippi is not what you would envision of Mississippi. It's kind of in its own bubble. I know you're laughing. I'm being dead serious. A lot of people envision Mississippi as being, you think about the Delta and all that. Oxford is so far from that. Oxford really reminded me of my small hometown of Lake Jackson, close-knit community. Very, very liberal. A lot of people willing to help each other and do things. Come together as a community, man, and help each other. So it was a transition. Don't get me wrong, coming from being that far away from home, but I did have some comforts from being away from home and being in Oxford. So it is a beautiful, lovely place.
Definitely. I know exactly where that is because my parents and me and my brother, we always took a trip to Memphis, Tennessee, and we would go the areas around it, and that's one of the places that we've traveled to. So
right. So you kind of get what I'm saying as far as it's in its own bubble. It's not the typical Mississippi that you would think about.
I was referring to the adjustment of not seeing your parents as much and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So my dad, he told me, he said, hey, whenever I started getting heavily recruited as a junior, he said, son, you're going to be 18. You're going to be a man, and whatever decision you make, you have to live by it. So I kind of took those words to heart. And so when I I knew I wanted to go out of state. I did not want to stay in Texas to play football. I wanted to go somewhere. So I took 3 of my 5 recruiting trips. I took 1 to Minnesota, 1 to Michigan, and 1 to Mississippi. The other 2, I went to TCU in Texas because my dad wanted me to. But when I made the decision to come here, when I tell you it felt right and it felt like home. Now, was it hard being away from mom and dad? Yes. But they made every effort to come up as much as they could during the football season to see me play because my brother was still playing in high school at that time because he's just a year younger. So it was hard for them, and they made a great effort of catching a flight late Friday night or early Saturday morning to try to come up and see me as much as they could. So it was a transition, but my family was very supportive, and they were here the whole journey. And then my brother actually came here the year after, so that made it much easier for them and me and my brother to kind of all be in one spot.
Definitely, man. So about the recruiting process, what stood out about Mississippi to you, man, besides those other colleges recruiting you?
When I tell you it felt like home, it did, man. A lot of people say if you don't want to come to the University of Mississippi, aka Ole Miss, do not take a recruiting trip here because it's different and it's mind blowing and it's eye opening. Back then we didn't have the facilities they have now. They have outstanding facilities now. There's so much more to do. The community is vibrant, but just being around the guys on that weekend that I was getting recruited, all the guys that were there, all 13 of us, we all signed. So just being around them was comforting. We all were in agreement of trying to build something, and we all wanted to do it together. And that was, to me, that was cool. And I figured, man, why not be a part of something special like that and help build something? And then my host, Derek Jones, aka DJ, he was great. Being around him, John Knight, Mark Smith, some of the older guys, kind of teasing me and wanted to challenge me as if I came there I would never play. And in my mind at 18, I was like, I'm from Texas. Like, you guys don't know nothing about Texas football. Like, none of you guys are gonna play if I come here. So I think it was a little bit of both. The guys that I came in with, and Derrick Jones and some of those other upperclassmen guys, as well as my recruiting coach, Noel Mazzoni, who actually was recruiting me at Minnesota, got me to take my first trip to Minnesota, my first recruiting trip to Minnesota. I got there. He wasn't there. I didn't hear from him for a few weeks. He had actually left when I took my trip to Minnesota to meet him. He took the job in Mississippi. And so I ended up taking my last recruiting trip here to Mississippi and finally getting to meet Noel Mazzoni, who I had a special bond with, great relationship with, and I still keep in contact with him to this day. Great guy. He's one of the huge factors. Definitely. And if you ask my brother now, he'll tell you they just recruited me to get to him because he was the guy. So my brother would say it's all because of him.
I hear you, man. That brotherly bond. Excuse me. Yeah, right. But with that college Ole Miss, man, that few seasons with that team, what stands out about the game up to you, and what games stand out in your mind that leave an impact on your further career in football, like the play wise, teammate wise?
Right. I think for me, I think what helped me the most was being at a program with some coaches who had just gotten there. Tommy Tuberville, who is now Senator Tuberville now from the state of Alabama, being the head coach, having guys like Noel Mazzoni, Art Kaufman, the coaches, the assistant coaches were all great. And they had a lot of energy. Now, when I tell you it was tough, when I tell you we built it from the ground up, I mean, we started from the ground up. The first 2 years of me being here, we were on probation. So we couldn't go to bowl games, no TV, no SEC championships. And so it was, when I tell you we built it from the ground up, I mean, we worked. Then I think from my high school days and my dad instilling a work ethic in me, Bernie Busking instilling a work ethic in me in high school, kind of carry over to college where Tommy Tuberville and his staff, we worked. I mean, we didn't have anything else to do but work. We couldn't play for anything. So when I tell you we worked. And I think from that point, the first day I ever stepped foot on campus, it was, I thought I was going to die. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But mentally, they just made us mentally tough. From 95 and 96 when we couldn't play for anything. And then, one of the games that really stands out to me is Georgia 96. We went to Georgia. Georgia was great. They're still Georgia like they are now. They were great at the time, had great running backs, great offensive linemen, great tight end play, great defensive linemen, great cornerbacks. Hines Ward was there. And we went betwixt the hedges. We only took 53 people. No, we didn't take a huge squad. We took a very, very small squad to Georgia, and we won. And I think at that point, we all we bought in more than we had already bought in to the program and the idea, because we won a game that a lot of people had written us off on. And then in 97, when we were bowl eligible, I think it all came together, and we won some games. We beat number 1 LSU in Baton Rouge. That's one of the big games. After they had just beat number 1 Florida, we beat them, smoked cigars on the field, on the Tiger's Eye. So there's a ton of games throughout the course of my career at Ole Miss that stand out. But those would probably be two of the better games. Obviously, senior night here, my last game here was memorable. But just being around those guys at that time, man, just the way we all bought in, and we all held each other accountable to be our best and do our best on every single play, even on and off the field, like even in the classroom, not even just football, like everything. So it was a great time to be here.
This concludes our episode today, folks. We greatly appreciate the support. And if you're not a subscriber yet, Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our up-to-date content. And if you like this video, hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. We welcome you back next time.